What's going on, guys? We are back with World Championship qualification. What will happen in London will determine who goes to the World Championship. So we're going to kind of talk about who has clinched a main event, what are the percentage chances that they do get a main event slot, what are the percentage chances they clinch a World Championship spot, and so on and so forth. We have some teams, obviously, that have clinched already, but technically, right now, 31 teams still alive. Now, I think I got that number right, but we're going to go through it region by region and talk about what teams need to do. So, let's get started. Oh, it didn't work. See, Hey, all right, let's get started. There we go. Sub-Saharan Africa. We'll start there. Main event, obviously none. They don't have a chance to clinch a top 8 spot at majors because they're not at majors, which also means pretty easy because all they have is regional. So the 2 clinched wildcard spots are in Orlando Pirates and Bravado Gaming. We'll be going to the World Championship. Hopefully no visa issues. But those 2 will be going as long as they, don't have any issues there. So those 2 will be going. We'll move on from that pretty quickly. Asia Pacific North and South main event. Gaming Gladiators have basically a 1% chance. Now, I don't know technically how this works. Say Gaming Gladiators win this regional. Technically, APAC now has a slot in the top 8. Does it go to South? Do North and South play each other? I honestly don't know. For now, I'm going to just put it as Gaming Gladiators would get the spot, if that would happen. It's about a 1% chance in terms of my Gibbs math, which really is there's no technical math behind it. I'm not going to base it off of necessarily every match as a coin flip. But I'm going to base it kind of on strength of the teams and yada yada yada. But for the most part, I just kind of made up numbers and went along the way, just to give you a rough estimate on the chances of this happening. Clinched wild card. Tokyo Verde and Gaming Gladiators have clinched. Tokyo Verde in APAC North, Gaming Gladiators in APAC South. The 2 teams that are still technically alive, if Gaming Gladiators somehow pulls it off and gets the main event spot, that unlocks 1 additional spot. I assume, now again, I don't know for sure, that the 2 seeds would play in a best of 7 or best of set or something like that to determine who goes. That's Detonator from North and the 16-20 Kings would play. So that's why they have that 1% chance. I guess technically, if Gaming Gladiators has a 1%, it would be 0.5%, but we're rounding here, so don't worry about that. So technically, Asia Pacific North and South still have 4 teams alive, but realistically, they have their 2 teams that are going to the World Championship in the wildcard spots, Tokyo Verde and the Gaming Gladiators. Moving on, we go to the Middle East and North Africa. So, main event, Falcons, about a 10% shot. They need basically top 4 finish and some help or around there to get to a main event spot. That's also because they got last place in winter because they didn't participate. So it kind of hurt their chances there. Who has clinched wildcard at the very least? Falcons and Veloce Esports have clinched. And the team that is in third, O1 Esports, if Falcons do pull off that 10% chance, then O1 Esports will get the 3rd spot in Middle East and North Africa. But again, Falcons need to do a bit of work. I'll also link, there are people on Reddit that have made better descriptions of, the exact placements everyone needs for things to go their way. So I'll link that in the description below if you really want to narrow it down. But this is kind of just the overarching, rough estimates of what these teams need. So the O1 Esports will be at home cheering on Falcons. Middle East and North Africa, they want their 3 spots. So that is what will be going on there. So Falcons, it's up to you to get O1 Esports there. Moving on, South America. Main event, Furia right now is tied for Europe for the last spot. I believe they win the tiebreaker for South America based on recent performance. So Furia, we'll say 55% chance at going to the main event because of that tiebreaker. Basically, Europe number 4 would have to move ahead of them, but also there's other regions that are still technically alive. MENA, OC1, APAC technically. So we'll just give it a 55% chance for Furia there. Team Secret, on the other hand, they're behind them in points by a lot. I actually should have had my points up here. See if I can bring it up real quick. So Team Secret technically could still go to the main event. Now, obviously, both SAM teams could, but that's a very, very small chance. But right now, they are 600 points down, basically, of Furia, so they need to basically win the entire event. to pass Furia. And then obviously if they do win the event, then hey, they're into the main event. Clinch wildcard, though, obviously Furia and Team Secret are the top 2 teams. The club, though, sitting at 2501 points, 301 behind Team Secret, is hoping for one of those Furia or Team Secret things to happen. So that would add up to 56% chance that the club will also go. So they'll be rooting on the South America teams there. Moving on, we go to Oceania. Main event. Now, this one's weird because no one has clinched a wild card spot yet because it's a really interesting thing that happened here is Renegades are technically the number 1 team in OCE, but they did not qualify for this major. So, what that means is if Power wins 1 match, Power will move ahead of Renegades. If Pioneers finish top 8, which means they have to win 2 matches, then they will move ahead of them as well. Pioneers only need to win 1 match to move ahead of Power, though, so it gets a little bit interesting. Basically, Renegades will say 95% likely to get in because they would need Pioneers to finish top 8. Power would have to finish 9th, and then Renegades would be out. But say Pioneers go even further and actually get OCE1 a main event spot, then the Renegades would be in anyway. So that's where it is. Like basically Renegades are like, hey, OC either do really well or do pretty poorly, so we make sure we make it in. But they have a very, very good chance at making it to the World Championship. Now, main event, though, for Renegades, they don't have a shot at that. Only Power and Pioneers have a shot because obviously OC1 is sitting like 11th or so, and they need to make it to the top 8 spot. So they need Power or Pioneers to do incredibly well, and if they do, they'll move ahead of Renegades in points, and they will have a shot. So Power has a little bit more points, so they have a little bit more likely of a shot. Pioneers will throw a 1% on there because they need to do really well. It's probably a little bit better than 1%, but hey, I put 1% there. So Power and Pioneers are trying for that extra spot, and if that does happen, all 3 of these teams will clinch at the same time. It's between these 3 teams. If not, one of them is going home. Again, Pioneers have to win 1 match if Power wins 0. If Power wins 1 match, Power clinches, and then Pioneers need to win 2. So that's what has to happen there. And then Renegades don't want those scenarios to happen unless all 3 teams go. So Oceania, a little bit strange going into the London Major, but that's what they're playing for there. Moving on. Oh, we're not on the right tab again. Europe. So Europe, obviously, there's a lot more teams involved. It's going to get a little bit more complicated. North America as well. But Europe technically hasn't really clinched anything yet because they're all competing pretty closely. And right now, technically, Europe has only clinched 1 team into the main event. It is very, very, very likely they will get 3, but like it is what it is. So BDS, 99% shot to make the main event because they cannot be lower than top 2. Moist is the only team that can catch them. And again, if 3 teams are very, very likely to make it, then BDS 99. I would even put 99.9%. Moist, 99% as well. They can technically be caught by endpoint, but even if that happened, they're still top 3, so 99%. And if that did happen, then endpoint's doing well, which means Europe probably doing pretty well. So it's kind of one of those things where it kind of helps and hurts you at the same time. The endpoint, 98%. Their top 3, they cannot be caught by anyone. So as long as Europe gets their top 3, they are fine as well. So I docked a percent because they can only finish 3rd. They could finish top 2, but obviously at that point, they would be fine. Dignitas, for a main event spot, Europe right now, again, tied with Sam. I would give it like 40% chance because we'll leave like 5% for the weird ones, whatever. The Falcons, the OCE. So I know technically that this math does not add up because Falcons I gave 10%, but we're doing rough estimates here. So Dignitas, basically about a 40% chance. We'll dock 1% because Carmine could catch them technically. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Carmine cannot catch them. So it's more of we just dock them 2% because I do their streams. So there you go. But Dignitas, there's a chance at a main event. They would need Europe to get 4 spots. It's not incredibly unlikely. It's just they need Europe to do pretty well. If Europe does pretty well, they're actually pretty okay. Because at first I thought Carmine could catch them. So that is my mistake there. So maybe we'll jump them up 1% there. Clinch wild card, BDS, Moist, Endpoint, and Dignitas have all clinched. So at least for the wild card purposes, they are in. Again, BDS, Moist, and Endpoint very, very likely going to the main event. Dignitas, a little less than a coin flip to make it to the main event. Still alive, Semper, sitting at 98%. Now, this one was huge because EG played Team Liquid. If EG would have won, they would have moved ahead, and they would have gained, like according to my Gibbs math, about 34% more likely to make it to the World Championship. So that would have been very, very nice for them. But, hey. So, Semper, 98% chance I am giving them because in the very likelihood that Europe gets their 3 spots, very similar to the Endpoint, then Semper would lock it up there. Because Team Liquid is the only other team besides Karmine Corp that could pass them. And Semper's in 5th right now. So as long as they don't drop out of that, 3+3 top 6, then they are fine. So 98% very, very likely. And they can't drop out of that top 6 because of Team Liquid. That's why it was very important for EG to beat Team Liquid, because then EG would have moved ahead of Semper and been in that very safe spot. Now instead, EG has to hope that Karmine Corp does not win any games. Because if Karmine Corp wins even one match, Karmine Corp moves into that spot, and then they have to hope for the European teams to get 4 spots. Now, if Karmine Corp obviously wins 1, that helps them a little bit. The EG percentage, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, might be a little bit high. We'll say there's about a 25% chance, roughly, that Karmine Corp does not win a match. And then, because they would be like underdogs in their first one versus Furia, there would be slight favorites in their next one as well. So it's like, we'll even it out. Basically, 2 coin flips to get them both wrong is about 25% chance. So that would give EG about 25% right there. And then you get the 40% or so for Europe to get 4 spots. So maybe this is actually pretty accurate. 2/3 of a chance to make it to the World Championship. You know what? I back my own math. EG, it's going to be tight, but 64% chance. Sure, if Karmine wins 1, obviously that's going to help for Europe to have a chance at 4 spots. So, hey, we'll see what all happens there. So that's what EG needs. If a Karmine Corp gets knocked out in last place, that is very, very, very good for EG. So that's what they want. Then they're like up to like a 99% chance or 98% chance. Vitality, about a 1% chance, because basically what they need is Europe to get 5 spots. They need all of Europe to just dominate and make it to the top 6, which is also very hard like in a bracket like this, because they might knock each other out anyway in the lower bracket. So they would need that. On top of that, they would also need Team Liquid not to win the event. Because I think Team Liquid can just barely catch them 7-4. Yeah. So Team Liquid can't come into the grand finals, I believe. So not only do they need Team Liquid to finish top 5, but they also need Team Liquid to not make the grand finals, because then Team Liquid would pass them. That is basically what Team Liquid needs, though. They need all of Europe to do incredibly well, and they have to make grand finals. Then they'll pass Vitality, and that's if Europe will lock up 5 of those spots. Even if Europe did that well, there's still some math behind it where they wouldn't get 5 teams in either way. So Team Liquid, a very, very small chance as well. Moving on, North America. Main event. So this is the only region that has teams locked into the main event, because G2 and FaZe have a huge lead over most of the other teams, and Energy is not going, so that helps a lot as well. Yeah, I believe Space Station cannot catch FaZe, so G2 and FaZe are locked in at 1 and 2. FaZe could technically pass them, I think, still. Yeah, I think just barely still. So if FaZe wins the event and G2 comes in last, FaZe could get the 1 seed. But outside of that, G2 and FaZe are still locked in top 2. Energy, not at the London Major. I know we've been through this. We've been through this on Finished Business, yada, yada. But they still have a very good chance to make it to the main event. Right now, they're sitting in 3rd. They are 400 points clear of Space Station, which includes the last place points at the Major. So Space Station, I believe, needs a top 4 finish, I believe. And then version 1 needs top 3, if I'm not mistaken, to pass NRG. If that happens, That would also increase the likelihood that NA gets 4 spots, which right now they're already at like 60% or so, that they'll get 4 spots into the main event. But if Space Station and V1 both pass Energy, they would move to 5th. If only one does that well, they would move down to 4th, but there's still a very good chance at that point that they would make it. So main event Energy, pretty likely. We'll say 70%. Space Station, about 50%. They have to make it either top 4, or they need that 60% chance of NA getting top 4 spots. Then they would get one as long as they are ahead of V1. That really just comes down to one place, depending on where it is in the bracket. But as long as they stay ahead of V1, then they'd be fine. That's why V1 is docked 10% there, because they have to pass Space Station and then hope for that 40 or that extra chance for NA to get the 4 spots. NV sitting at about 1% chance. They cannot catch NRG. They cannot catch, or they just barely can catch Space Station if they win the whole event. So it's very, very unlikely that NV would get the chance there. That's more likely if NA got 5 spots into the main event, then NV has a shot there, but that would mean they would have to do incredibly well. They would need V1 to do poorly. Honestly, I'm not even sure if that's even possible, because for NA to get all 5 spots, all these teams have to do incredibly well. So there's probably one specific way that they could get it, and that's if they can even get it. I'm not even sure. Go check the Reddit links that I send you. They'll probably go into it more. Clinched wildcard, only Energy is clinched so far. So they're sitting in 3rd. They're looking pretty good. They're not worried too much there. They're going to the World Championship. Still alive, Space Station, 99%. As we talked about, NA is very likely to get at least 3. They've already clinched 2. They're very likely to get 3. So Space Station and V1 would be in based on that. Because only NV can pass them. They would still be in that 3+3 top 6. So they would be fine there. NV is also 99% because no one can pass them at this point, because all of the top 6, the 5 teams that are going to the London Major, are all in that top 6. The only team that is not in there is NRG, so NV can only pass them, but no one below them can pass them, so they're fine. Complexity, to make it into the wild card, 60% chance, and that is where I'm basing off of NA to get 4 teams is about that amount. That they can't move anywhere, so they have to hope for at least 4. And then if NA somehow pulls off the 5 teams into the main event, then they would have 8 total teams at the World Championship. And Oxygen, sitting at 11-10 points, would get into the World Championship, which would be pretty incredible. So we'll give them about a 1% chance. So there it is, the Gibbs math. The percentages are not technically accurate, but it gives you a ballpark estimate of what these teams need. I'll link some things in the Reddit comments as well to show you exactly what these teams need. And then throughout the London Major on the desk, we'll say when teams clinch and all of that. We'll figure all that math out for you. It'll probably come more towards like when teams start getting knocked out, then we'll be able to start saying like exactly what's going to be happening. For the first few rounds, it's going to be a little bit hazy because you're still waiting to see where teams move and all that stuff in the upper and the lower bracket. So that's what's going on there. World Championship, again, August something in Dallas. I'm not even sure the dates. I apologize, Wavefunk. It's actually in Fort Worth at the Dickies Arena. There's wildcard tickets on sale if you want to show up for that first week. Only 1,000 people get in there. It's going to be very intimate. It's going to have a much better chance to meet players and all that stuff, I would assume. And then we go to the main event, where we got group stage, again, in that intimate setting. I think that's Tuesday through Thursday. 1,000 tickets there. And then we go into the arena days, Friday through Sunday. You'll see every single main event team there. Because as of now, the whole entire 8-team bracket will be played on the final day of the season. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So you won't want to miss that. It's going to be a long day, though, on that. So don't book a flight for Sunday night, because it's going to be a long one. It's going to be brutal, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's what's going on there. And then to show you how long it's been since making these things, I did the Neo Tokyo background. I always just copy over some other random PowerPoint slide I did because I'm lazy and I don't care about having them. But So this one's all the way from Season 3. Look at this. RLCS Season 3, notable teams. Let's go over this real quick. Flip side, obviously. So this video, I think, was about roster moves, so I deleted like all those other slides, but we still had one left here. Red Eye, Dedu, Skyline, Tequilas. We got Pondex, Freaky Killer, number 7. Leaf, Jazer, Grandmaster Sexay, Krasic. Oh, man, we got the Leftovers, Snasky, Sicky, and Continuum. Tablecloth. We got Doomsy in there. We got Team Secrecy a lot. Metsinoris and Magnus. Never heard of that Metsinoris guy, Never heard of him. Parhelion. I don't even know what these names are. We got Frishish, Ignite, Gontho, Velocitas. Mike Rules was still playing in Season 3. I thought he gave up by this point. I wasn't even sure, but okay. All right. Paulie Paul, ELMP, Mocket. We got K-Dop, Fairy Peak, Mystic. Look at this. Blast from the Past. Pocket Ace is a pretty good team, I would say. Pashy 90, Chaussette, Violent Panda. We got NG. I don't even know. Northern Gaming, that's what it was. I was like, what is that? Maestro, Remco, and Devo. Woo! Blast from the Past. How many of these players are going to the World Championship? Let's see. 0. 1. Chaussette. Very likely. 98% chance. 0. Unless the 1% for K-Dop. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. Hey, Metsinoris, the only one that's technically clinched. So there's basically 2 of these players from the Season 3 notable teams will be going to the World Championship unless this 1%er K-Dop finds a way, which he's not really going to find a way. I guess Europe's going to do it for him. So we'll see how that all works out. But, man, times change. Season 3 was 5 years ago, I guess. And, yeah, we're down to 2 players going to the World Championship at this point. Metsinoris and Chaussette. Most of these players don't even play. Most of these players are at least weren't even in the conversation. I would say Violent Panda at least was in the conversation in fall. But, woo! And Fairy Peak, obviously. But for the most part, woo, times are changing. The young guns are coming in. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will make sure I put in the description the links to the fun Reddit stuff where people really break it down, like if you want more info there. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. See you at Worlds. We'll see you at London. Bye.